we move back to the normal news videos and basically focusing on what news we have found over the last couple of days. As I have decided to go the route of mounting together some news over the last couple of days, as opposed to sporadic throughout the day, or, like picking news from one day, adding it to the next, adding it to the next, adding it to the next. Wait, forget what I'm gonna say. All I'm gonna say now is we got a lot of news from Collision, a lot of it about CM Punk, and some updates on Night of Champions and other things going on around the world of professional wrestling. And with that being said, let's get into it right now. As we have found out the reason why Drew McIntyre has not been a part of WWE or weekly WWE programming for a while, and the reason seems to have to do with disagreements in creative direction and also Drew McIntyre being a little banged up. I mean, I think that it's sort of like I said with Bray Wyatt, that WWE, with Bray on the shelf right now, WWE should not be looking to bring Bray back unless they can sit there and say they know what they're going to do with him. If they know what they're going to do with him and they have a plan, then bring him back. But if you're going to sit there and tell me that you have no idea what you're going to do with Bray Wyatt, there's no reason to bring him back to television then, if you don't know what you're going to do. It makes more sense just to let him stay off programming and then bring him back when you know what you're going to do. Bring him back when you know what you're going to do, when you have an idea of what to do with him on programming, and take it from there. Because if you don't know what to do with him, there's no reason to bring him back to TV. Then there's no reason to bring him back to TV, because if you're just going to have him sit down and cut promos and, do what he did before he left, that's not really going to put him in a position for success. It's not really going to put him in a position for success, because what he did before he left did not put him in a position for success. It put him in a position where nobody knew what the heck he was doing, and nobody knew what Bray Wyatt was. And after a couple weeks, first couple weeks, people were interested. People were loving it because it was something different, because it was something new. It was still something fresh. But the fact of the matter is, after a while, it got to the point where nobody cared, because it was just the same stuff over and over and over again, and it was not going anywhere extra or anywhere different. And if you want Bray Wyatt to be a special attraction, then let Bray Wyatt be a special attraction and don't use him every week. You know what I mean? Then let him be a special attraction and don't use him every week. But if you're going to use him every week, then guess what? You have to book him in a certain way to where you get to add a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more to that mystique of Bray Wyatt. I know we were talking about Drew McIntyre and I didn't really express my opinion, but it's the same thing with Drew McIntyre, that if you don't have a way to bring McIntyre back to television, there's no reason to bring him back to TV then. And it's disappointing, because if you want to talk about somebody who's fallen off since the pandemic, McIntyre was one of the most important people in the company during the pandemic, and he carried the company during the pandemic. He carried the company on his back, and I think, for lack of a better word, McIntyre has suffered since they unified the titles because guys like McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, guys like that who were champion before have not been able to challenge for the championship. Hell, AJ Styles has never fought Roman Reigns. AJ fought Roman in the initial title reign, but he did not fight Roman in this title reign. You know what I mean? So it's the idea of AJ has not been given a title shot, has not been given, the opportunity to be in the upper echelon. Rollins, same thing. McIntyre, same thing. When, no offense to Logan Paul, but when Logan Paul is used as a drawing tool to fight Roman Reigns, and the guys and the former champions who were champions and would be champions if Roman did not have all the titles, I don't want to say it's a little alarming, but it's kind of a little alarming when, no offense to Logan Paul, he is a drawing tool, but what about the guys that were in that position before and have not been in that position for years? What about those guys? Because McIntyre has not been. You could say, oh well, McIntyre was he was the challenger at Clash at the Castle. He could have did this. He could have did that. Well, why isn't McIntyre in the World Heavyweight Title Tournament? Why wasn't he in the World Title Tournament? Why wasn't he given a spot in the World Title Tournament, but other people were? Why was McIntyre more prominently featured, in my opinion, in the Intercontinental title feud with Gunther than he was in the feud with Roman Reigns? In my opinion, the only reason why people believed that McIntyre was going to beat Roman Reigns was because of where we were, as opposed to the fact that McIntyre deserved it. Because Sami Zayn was booked as more of a credible threat to Roman than McIntyre was. Sami Zayn, and again, no offense to Sami, but McIntyre has not been booked in the same way that he was during the pandemic now. And that's a shame. Because he's one of the people that have really fallen off over the last couple of years. Because he was booked in a very prominent way during the pandemic and was one of the leaders of the company during the pandemic. And it's a shame that he's fallen off as much as he has, because he was an asset to the company in the time that they needed him the most. At the time they needed him the most, he was an asset to the company. So what would I expect for McIntyre? What would I expect for Bray Wyatt? Honestly, Bray's in a position where if Bray has somebody that writes for him, if he has his own member of the creative team, then there's no reason why Bray should not be in a position where if you have somebody on the creative team that writes for you, then that Bray's in the position where he should be sitting down with that guy, coming up with ideas, coming up with ways to come back, and the best ways to come back and, raise interest, keep interest, have a long-term plan when he comes back, and get everything together. The fact that McIntyre is written off television and does not have a plan, I said it before and I'll say it again, McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes, in my opinion, is a perfect way to bring McIntyre back to TV and keep both McIntyre and Cody Rhodes busy. Yes, McIntyre probably would not win the feud, but also it would give Cody Rhodes a fresh challenger and somebody else to fight. Because the fact of the matter is, Cody needs people to keep him busy, and Cody needs people to give him the opportunity to show that he is still a viable challenger and can face adversity and win. You know, I think that going the route of having Cody and McIntyre would be perfect, but at the same time, WWE is going the route of probably at least uh, a series of matches between Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes, so we got that coming for us too. But speaking of series of matches, we saw the tournament go through this month to crown the new World Heavyweight Champion, and at Night of Champions, the World Heavyweight Champion will be crowned between AJ Styles and Seth Rollins. It is up in the air, in my opinion, who will be the champion, but the fact of the matter is, AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins is currently pegged to be the main event of Night of Champions, which, again, title of pay-per-view aside, it makes sense that that crowning a new world champion at Night of Champions would be the main event. And it's going to be a crazy main event because Seth Rollins and AJ Styles will put everything on the line, and it will be a classic at Night of Champions for the World Heavyweight Championship. With that being said, though, I will see you in the next video as we break down the latest on Collision and other AEW news, but we also have some more WWE news to get to, but that is in the next video, and I will see you in the next one.